To the Hawaii Island Chamber of Commerce Government Affairs Committee meeting, and this is your chair, Dave Kurohara. It is our March 20th meeting, and we are very fortunate to have two guest speakers today. The first is our County Council Chair, Dr. Holeka Inaba. And a little bit about Chair Inaba is not only he oversees and manages all of the county council chairs, county council members, but he's also the chair of the Parks and Recreation Committee, the Public Safety Committee. He's also vice chair for the Regenerative Agriculture, Water, Energy, and Environmental Management Committee.
Oh, sorry, David. I'm gonna just
Yes.
stop. Those are from previous terms that are on the website showing the years was on those committees, but right now I'm only serving as chair of the council.
Okay, great.
Okay.
Thanks for clarifying. I was wondering how you do it all. um, and also in support of Council Chair Inaba, we also have our guest speaker, Dennis Fresh Onishi is the vice chair. Vice Chair Onishi, and I'm hoping this is current, Dennis, but this is off the website. So you are the chair of the Environmental Management Committee, chair of the Government Relations and Economic Development Committee,
So that
as
was
well as
previous times,
what?
previous council times. Now
Previous council times. Okay,
I'm the chair of public work. I'm PNR Public Safety.
okay.
Yeah.
So are you also on the executive committee for HICC?
No,
No,
I'm not.
okay, that's okay.
That's
So let's
old.
just go with Vice Chair Onishi and the committees you serve on, okay? And so today, we do have the opportunity for our members to listen in and ask questions. So one thing I wanted to ask everyone is to, if you do have questions, please allow our guest speakers to finish and then just type them in the chat. Feel free to raise your hand as well, and we'll get to all of your questions right after they're finished. Okay. So let me go ahead and turn it over to Chair Inaba. Take it away.
Sure. Thank you so much, you folks, for having us here, joining via Zoom today. I just prepared a quick little, I guess, outline that I'll share on screen and walk us through regarding different things that are happening at the county. So at the beginning of this council term, which coincided with the beginning of the mayor's term, I became the chair of the council, and generally speaking, and over the last few council terms, we've seen the chair of the council go between East and West Hawaii. Fortunately, I have Vice Chair Onishi. In Hilo, the council maintains a balanced meeting schedule between both Kona and Hilo. We meet typically the first week of the month in Hilo, and then the third week of the month in Kona. Sometimes it could be off, but typically we're set with the two meetings per month, one on each side. My staff as chair of the council remained primarily in Hilo, and I did keep everyone who was currently serving the previous chair on for continuity there. Overall, I would say there's no real impact on West Hawaii representation or decision-making authority. We all represent a specific council district and, a specific perspective as voted by our constituents. So I would say operationally, not a lot of change. If anything, more change for me having to drive over to Hilo maybe a little bit more frequently for some of the evening events and meetings being held on that side. But I do want to share a little bit here about enhancements to our council records and public access. So right now our filing system online is a little archaic. So working collaboratively with our county clerk, we're exploring new systems and ways of filing our documents that are more friendly, not just to us who have to use it, but to members of the public who also want to have, a more pleasant, enjoyable experience in trying to engage in the county council process. We're also seeking out a vendor to take care of a improved accessibility platform so that if you want to look something up and the status and who voted or where it is in the process, tracking through the council process, that could be done really easily. Similar to how both the state ledge does their online system and even the city and county of Honolulu. So some of those initiatives are things that I guess I knew we needed to do, but since becoming chair, and with some more feedback from community, we're really rolling in that area. I'll stop at the end of each of these sections. If anyone has any questions I can answer. If not, I'll continue along. Any questions? Okay. Seeing none, I tried to talk about things that, whether they're directly relevant to government operations or things that might be helpful for people like you folks who represent a wide sector of community. Our VIVI grant, formerly called the Grant and Aid for the Council, allocates $2.5 million per year to support community programs through nonprofits. This year, we received over 100 eligible applications, and we have created the ad hoc committee of the council to begin reviewing those requests and to make recommendations for awards. We only have 2.5 million, but the total eligible requests have come in at a little over $4.3 million. If you or anyone you know who has a nonprofit, could receive support or use the support via funding like this, the VIVI grant program offers up to $50,000 per award. And the application period is from the end of November through the end of January. And that would be for the upcoming fiscal year. We have a fully kind of new resource site online and a dedicated staff person in my council chair staff to assist the public and nonprofits who are interested in applying as well. Any questions? Okay. I know there was some questions regarding the capital improvement project, capital improvements at sites and projects across the east side of the island, as well as the Banyan Drive Redevelopment Agency. I'm leaving all of that to Vice Chair Onishi, since he surely has more information than I do. But regarding the type of funding that we're looking at and some of the upcoming legislation and even, I guess, projects I'm working on personally, these things are at various stages throughout the council process, some from just still trying to do research to some passing yesterday. So I'm going to just walk us through, and you just let me know if you have any questions. First of all, right now with the change of administration, we're having a close review at the funding for both housing and then homeless services as well. So to take you back a little bit, back in 2022, the council passed Ordinance 22-27, which stated that a minimum allocation of $5 million per year would be put forth for the production of affordable housing, both during the previous administration and during the current administration. They're inputting more than the required 5 million. There is no cap. It's ultimately a decision of both the administration and the council when we go through our budget process. But right now, the Office of Housing and Community Development is looking for input from community, from associations like you folks in different chambers, to provide input on what type of housing we should be focusing on, whether it be multifamily residential or single family units that are at a certain AMI. So if you click here, and I'll send this document over to you folks after, just as a recap and resource, but this is an active link and you folks can go there and answer the survey. And it's helpful for housing to try and get an understanding, even though we had a priority map created some time ago, about a couple of years ago, seeing if we're still, I guess, in line, or if we want to focus our efforts in a slightly different area, that input via the survey will be helpful.
Chair
The
Inaba, can
other-
I ask a quick question?
Please, yes.
So I'm curious, when you say 5 million per year for affordable housing, is that like direct money to build housing? What is that? What is that for?
Yes, directly for housing, costs for development and even infrastructure.
Okay, cool. Thank
So
you.
in the big picture, it allowed the council to say for certain that we'd have that amount, but we know 5 million doesn't necessarily make a huge dent in the housing need right now. So we've seen both Mayor Roth and Mayor Alameda's administrations giving more than the 5 million.
Thank you.
And for that fund, any monies that are not spent go back to that specific fund and don't get absorbed back into the general fund like most other lapse funding. Another big area of spending is regarding homelessness and housing. So in that very same year, there was another ordinance 22-26. This one doesn't specify a specific dollar amount, but rather states that 75% of the Tier 2 real property tax revenue would go to homelessness and housing solutions. So at the time, I want to say it was about 9 million, but because property values had skyrocketed and had continued to grow since the passing of that ordinance, we've seen this fund or this amount available annually kind of increase. I'm sure many of you know there's been this push and pull with which of the non-profit providers are getting funding and which are not, and making sure that there's a equal and equitable distribution of funding and types of services being offered across the island. Housing is actively working right now to try and be, I guess, a little bit more proactive as we head into the fourth year of funding. The council just allocated and approved via resolution the third year of funding. There is some legislation I'm working on with another council member at this time to reevaluate, because that homeless fund has a sunset of 2027, and realistically I don't see, and Vice Chair Onishi might have different thoughts on this as well, but I don't see that we would stop funding homeless services. But I do see where instead of allowing a runaway fund that is determined as a percentage of what we take in, that we set something similar to what happens with affordable housing production. And it allows the housing office to guarantee that they have this amount of money and things aren't fluctuating too much from year to year. So that one will be coming down the council's pipeline soon for discussion. Any questions?
Hello, Chair Holak. This is Kapono Pa. I do have a question regarding that. Because I know that along with that discussion too, there's been, I guess, some frustration over, with the homeless services, the monies that are being allocated to the nonprofits. What has been done to move the needle on addressing homelessness instead of, putting out money to, I guess, support continuing programs and services for what seems to be an unrelenting tap of homeless people uh, across the island. Is there any kind of discussion at the county level as to how those funds or maybe those nonprofits might be held better accountable for the funds that they are receiving to actually move the needle in decreasing homelessness on Hawaii Island?
Yeah, so I think the problem that we've been experiencing is that the fund was created quickly. There were no administrative rules established by the department because it was a 5-year funding opportunity. But at this point, we see that administrative rules and a longer term plan are necessary. For me, in discussions with the administrator of housing, Kehau Costa, essentially my question is the same that you just presented. What is the tangible outcomes? And I don't think the prior leadership within the department was looking to get that specific outcomes and to be able to report. And the council, we oversee a lot, but sometimes it's made it through a few rounds already, and now we're really seeing that, hey, millions of dollars have gone out, and I don't know what it looks like in Hilo every day, but people in my community, they're not seeing the translation between the money spent and any change on the ground. I recognize that it isn't an easy field to work in, and it's not an easy problem to solve, but moving forward and working with Administrator Costa is really trying to figure out what are the outcomes specifically. And this speaks also to a greater problem within the county regarding grant management. Every department and office typically does their process their own way. And I've been hounding the previous administration to try and get us some type of software. As a result of this last housing and homelessness award and the issues that were posed to the council and the housing office, finance is working diligently to get us to use countywide grant management and reporting software so that everything can be streamlined, not just on the county side, but even for applicant organizations who are seeking funding, perhaps from different agencies within the county.
Very good. Thank you.
Any other questions at this time regarding that? Okay. If not, these are just a bunch of random things that are being worked on right now. So chapter 11, as some of you may know, is our affordable housing chapter. Currently, it's the requirement-based chapter based on rezone. So when people come to rezone a parcel or property, and the rezone and subsequent subdivision would result in so many units, chapter 11 is triggered. We did have an ad hoc committee set up last year to hold discussions with developers, bankers, nonprofit affordable housing developers, and figuring out some ideas. That ad hoc closed with some good recommendations, but we've established a new one to actually draft and write the legislation. And really trying to diversify chapter 11 away from just a requirement-based chapter, but also to put in a bunch of incentives, primarily exemptions by right for affordable housing projects. So if we're going to say that at least 50% of an affordable housing project is affordable, you don't have to come to request and then be approved for exemptions, let's say from the thickness of the pavement or setback zones or zoning type. Those are things that could be pre-granted by right to try and avoid any red tape with the county. So that might be something interesting that you folks can take to some of the other committees of the chamber. A lot of ideas are needed for what those incentives look like. The requirements we're looking to expand, not to make it more difficult, but to expand the reach of those requirements. But it's a work in progress that we're hoping to have some solid drafted legislation later this year. And the members of this ad hoc are listed here. If you have any ideas, whether here or later, please don't hesitate to reach out to me. And I'll be able to share that when we have those normal ad hoc committee meetings.
Chair, I got a quick question.
Yes.
Is that sort of pertaining to the 201H building requirements that have been modified for affordable housing?
So 201H, right, is a program that's created in the Hawaii Revised Statutes, but the application typically comes through council for approval, and they're able to exempt from zoning requirements, building requirements, get exempted from permitting fees, just a host of exemptions. So we're looking at not trying to create our own, but to know which of these types of exemptions do we want to just pre-grant without needing to go through a 201H application? You would say, hey, I'm coming with a 50% affordable housing project, and I want to do all of these things, and there's no, I guess, political body that you need to go before, specifically the council or any of the planning commissions to go forth with that. As long as you're meeting the qualifications, which at this time are still trying to be determined. But I use, for example, the 201H cutoff, which is the 50%.
Thank you.
Speaking to other things regarding our general excise tax. So primarily, our revenue as a county, we know, comes from the real property tax. We do, by way of the state's power, are allowed to tap the GE for our highways, roads, mass transit. Councilmember Kirkowitz and I introduced a bill recently to allow the counties to tap the GE and expand its use to include housing infrastructure costs for roads, sidewalks, sewer, any of the normal infrastructure costs that housing require. Council Vice Chair Onishi had added those provisions for the roadway and sidewalks and stuff yesterday at its final reading. It did pass. So there was some concern, I think, from some members of the public regarding how many sources of funding we have for housing right now. But ultimately, when things become available, say a parcel that we have extra money that we could leverage against the Affordable Housing Production Fund or funds that are available from federal, state sources, this just provides us an opportunity. So I don't think, well, I know for a fact that Councilmember Kirkowitz and myself, aren't looking to specify a certain amount. We've pulled this lever with our colleagues to allow the administration, should it be needed, to tap the GE for housing infrastructure costs. Okay. Moving on with regards to special activity permits. So Councilmember Kirkowitz and I, last term, Bill 184, we passed, and currently, both by state law and within our own county code, you cannot vend or sell within the county right of way. I know the state was cracking down and there was some enforcement action going on in Hilo. So we passed Bill 184 to specify a certain permitting application process to be able to designate specific areas around the island as areas that people can apply for a permit and conduct vending or commercial activity for a period, but those things and items need to be removed daily. So we got that bill in. It didn't specify where, but yesterday we passed Bill 10, which I introduced for a pilot project area right next to the West Hawaii Civic Center here in Kona. It requires a lot of effort between police and DPW, and we're piloting it, but pending everything going okay, other council members may consider introducing areas in their own districts that would allow for it. And essentially, it's just another option for economic development. We know there's the traditional stores. We know that there are farmers markets. There are some private companies and organizations, at least here in the West Side, that allow their parking lots to be used on certain days. All wonderful, just providing one other option that if there is a safe space on a county road that police and DPW and a council member can agree on, we'll provide that area as well and make sure that the area is cared for and ultimately safe for the community. So just something interesting we're trying here. The legislation exists. It's just a matter of adding locations within the schedule that exists in the code. Questions? No. All right. Few other things currently happening, not necessarily specific to actual legislation. We did have a audit of the liquor department and commission, so we're looking to have that report presented to us at our April 1st committee meetings in Hilo. And this kind of ties in with a project I'm working on as well. There are 5 chiefs or directors within the county system that are overseen by a border commission. So specifically would be water, HR, fire, police, and liquor. Typically, we know those departments that fall under the mayor's direct purview, have constant oversight by the mayor. And what we're looking to introduce is a more standardized performance evaluation for all of those folks. Not just to help the boards and commissions who might not have clear direction on how to go about it, but also for greater oversight and responsibility to the county and to the people. So this should be coming down the pipeline as well shortly. And if you haven't been able to tell already, a lot of the stuff I've focused on in my time in office is about how county is functioning. For me, it's important to make sure that we do have adequate overview, things are transparent, and information is available. So regarding real property tax initiatives, we do have a bill coming back to try and bridge the gap. Right now, we have an affordable housing, affordable rental class for real property taxes, and it receives the cheapest tax rate and the 3% assessment cap, same as the homeowner. But right now, the rate at which we're saying you need to rent is so far below market. We're trying to figure out a way that bridges that gap. So if that means we're going to allow the rent to be a little bit higher, to incentivize people, hey, maybe if I'm only going to lose 300, 400 a month, I can jump in and I'll get that savings back, especially after the year-to-year 3% assessment cap keeps your assessed values from increasing too much from year to year. So trying to pull levers while also protecting current renters who need affordable rentals, while also trying to encourage more folks into the program who are property owners. 2 other current programs that we're working on. Sorry, question?
No, yes, sorry, Chair Inaba, but this is Capono again. So that program there, affordable rental program revisions, that's separate then from the bill that was passed recently to establish just a long-term rental rate, right? Which that rate hasn't even been set yet, I think, by the council, correct?
Yes. So
Okay.
currently we just have affordable rental, homeowner, and then you have, residential tax class, residential. So what we're trying to do here, and what I guess Councilmember Galimba and Kagiwara introduced, is a whole new class that is guaranteed for folks who are doing long-term rentals. And we're going to have to see how that kind of interfaces, right? Like, are there people who are currently in the affordable rental program who are going to jump out of it because they can make more and still, I guess, not pay as much as the regular residential tax class? I wasn't supportive of the idea because I'm trying to bring, the regular market and the affordable rental somewhere closer, but they've established their own class here. So it's going to be interesting on how we balance out what those rates look like, and making sure that the benefits of the homeowner tax class and the affordable rental tax class remain, enticing enough to not just keep those who are already in there, but also to encourage new folks to get into the program as well.
Okay, thank you.
And then quickly on another 2 initiatives, DHHL, Councilmember Hustis and I are working on a bill that should be before the council shortly, on extending the real property tax exemptions for DHH parcels to include improvements. Currently, it excludes improvements. Every county does it differently. The Hawaiian Homes Commission Act requires 7 years of no tax for residential or for the land itself. But we're looking to send both the land and the improvements to minimum tax, which is $200 in our county. The financial impact on that being about $1.2 million per year in revenue difference for the county. And then lastly, I know many of us are Kama'aina families. Maui County has an Aina Kupuna exemption program. For them, it has to be within the special management area. The land has to be within your family for over 80 years. And if you commit to this Aina Kupuna exemption, you are also granted the minimum tax, which would be $200 in our county. We're not trying to follow it exactly. Obviously, not everybody has property in the special management areas. Some of us might have, land upwards, up Mauka. So we're working that with real property tax right now to see how and what we can do to protect families who have long time owned land here, that we don't want to see them priced out. And then home stretch for my section, unless you folks have questions. As you folks know, the general plan for the county is continuing through its various public hearings with both the Windward and Leeward Planning Commissions. Sometime in the next few months, once they kind of have had their stab at it, they will transmit it to the council and we'll have an opportunity to propose amendments. So if you haven't already checked it out, please check out the general plan draft on the county's planning website, and a lot of good work gone into it. But I want to make sure that we have it as good as possible by the time we do approve it as a bill, which would become an ordinance. Water availability. I think this is important, maybe even more important to some of you. I've been working with the Department of Water Supply to provide a public interface where members of the public can access online water availability across the island, or at least in the areas covered by DWS's systems. It's been kind of this slow process, so I know planning, DPW, DEM, all of these other county agencies can't wait for this to go live. There's the disclaimer, however, that the website is there, but ultimately folks will still need to check in with the Department of Water Supply to confirm what's there, but really to provide that without having to always call or send in writing inquiries regarding general availability of water within a region. I'm hoping that by third quarter of this year, it'll be ready for release to the public. I'm thinking in the next month, we might have access as council members to try and go through and make sure we get any kinks out. But I know a lot of you could benefit and are probably happy to hear about having that access to that information. Again, I spoke about the countywide grant management software, and that's in the process with finance, something that we need really, really bad. So that should be coming down the pipeline this year as well. And then lastly, closing up, we will be heading into our budget season shortly. We received the preliminary budget from the mayor at the beginning of March, and the official actual budget comes up on May 5th. Next month, we'll have 4 days of special finance meetings to take each department one by one to go through their budgets and have the council be able to ask questions. We haven't had, I guess, significant increases in real property tax values and revenue. We in fact did lose some of our federal grants this year. So on the federal grant revenue side, we're seeing a decrease there. And as you've all may have also seen online, the county did come to an agreement for most of the remaining with the unions, fire, police, UPW and HGEA. So those funds totaling up approximately 70 million. Finance is working on figuring out how exactly we're going to do the payment, but finance was prepared to be able to pay that out. So that's kind of the general update of all the different things that are happening right now at the county, at least that I know of. I know Vice Chair Onishi can share a bunch of things that he's working on too, but before I yield the floor, does anybody have questions I can answer about anything I presented or anything else? Phew, all right, I guess I did a good job. Thank you so
Thank
much,
you.
folks.
Great job, Chair. So first of all, it was mentioned about Banyan Drive. So I want to ask your members, how many folks have been keeping track of what's been happening at the ledge in the last like 2 weeks? Or if you guys heard anything before I move forward on what I'm, going to be doing. Anyone?
I'm aware that Representative Leloy does have a bill going through to try and get the Banyan Drive Peninsula turned over from, I think, DLNR to HCDA, correct?
Correct. Anything else has anybody heard recently of what's happening within the legislators? Big Island.
Actually, this is Mary. To Capono's point, the Lorraine refused to hear the bill in the Senate, so I don't know if it's going to make it.
Thank you for that.
That's good. Anybody else?
I mean, there's all kinds of things fresh. I'm not sure what.
Well,
Would it-
because what's happening, like I want to point out is that, yeah, I've been hearing stories too about how, like the Senate side, right? Like you mentioned, Senator Inouye didn't want to hear it in water and land. So what they did is they combined it with tourism. So now Lynn DeCoit is going to lead that conference within hearing the bill. But also there was something within the last week or so and about like, because they're supposed to have a study. So there's money that was appropriated before to have a study with Banyan Drive. And it was mentioned by one of the senators that this person with DBED was supposed to, had asked to have like a postponement. Came to find out that DBED is in support of moving this forward. So there's kind of like a mixed information going on at the state ledge within our own legislators. So supposedly what I heard was that they were supposed to have a meeting among them, the Senate and the House, to, I guess, get to the bottom of what's going on, right? But so hearing that, it was urgent for me to work with the Banyan Drive redevelopment to send in one the resolution. So we're in the process of waiting from LRB to finalize my resolution, which would be urging our Hawaii State Legislature to support House Bill 1818, right? To establish the Waikea Community Development District, right? And that would be also included where having DLNR turn it over to HCDA, which is the Hawaii Community Development Authority. So I guess from the council side, we'll be submitting that, and if you on the chamber side, if you folks can help support this resolution and send in testimony once we get this on the council floor, send in testimony and support. And also when it gets to the legislature, you folks gonna help us with supporting this resolution.
Dennis, what is it? House Bill HB 818?
House Bill 818.
818, okay.
That's what I'm going through. So anybody has any questions about the Banyan? Oh, and then what I'm gonna try and do too is I'm gonna request that the Banyan Drive redevelopment agency to meet more often right now, especially during session time. Like they schedule once a month meetings, and so like this have to be done right away with this reso. And I did attend the last month's meeting, and I asked them to help me, like because we got to work together. I don't want to do something different from what the county, right, Banyan Drive agency is doing. So working together, let me know how they want to, how they want me to draft the resolution in support of what they want to do. But if they meet once a month, it's too late, right? Because it now next month in April, the session's almost getting, downwinding already, right? And so the resolutions would be too late already. So like this is on emergency resolution that I'm doing right now. So I'm gonna request them to meet more often during the session time, especially if there's a within our county.
Hey, Fresh, can I make a comment?
Yes, sure.
It's not my kuleana, but Liliuokalani Park is probably the prettiest and the best park, not only in Hawaii, but in the state. And what's happened on Banyan Drive is actually a tragedy. It's your visitor plant. It can be just absolutely gorgeous. And I would advocate getting the state to give it to the county and for more home rule on making this thing work. We get locked into state politics, DLNR, and it just degrades the area, and it's a shame. That's my 2 cents.
And I agree with you. That's true. Yeah. Any others? Okay.
What is the status of the country club building? I know they had vacated all the tenants and they had shut it down, I think last month. What
Yeah.
is the future plans?
So what I heard is that DLNR is getting money, or they're in this budget supposed to be getting money for demolish of the building.
So very similar to Uncle Billy's. They're gonna take it down to the ground.
Correct.
Okay.
But one thing to let you folks know, so when I was at the governor's office at the time, we had gotten county planning department to allow any new leasee to country club to do renovations within the building. Planning was so worried about the EIS, which was supposed to have proposed back then, like I don't like 2018 or so, where the LNR and the county was supposed to put up 500,000 each to conduct an EIS on what's the best use in that area. Both sides didn't ever put up the money, so nothing happened. So with planning department, if you had touched the outside of your building, you would be required to do an EA. But if you had done it, like if you had to do renovation inside, it was going to allow you to do it. So during that time, that's what I got the planning department to agree upon. Yeah. But now it's like they want to demolish the whole thing. Okay. Okay.
Thanks.
So moving on with capital improvement projects for East Hawaii. As you all know, the Hilo wastewater treatment facility is in dire need and is moving forward. So we're in phase 1. The cost estimated is like over $300 million, right? And the complete project is between like 500 to maybe 600 million, right? And that's just for Hilo wastewater. Kealikehi is another factor. Yeah, Chair? That's another facility that needs to be fixed up, correct?
Yes.
Yeah. And so what was interesting too is that when I was on the council before, our fund balance used to average about maybe 20 to 30 million a rollover to the next fiscal year. But this year, the rollover is over 200 million. So that's unbelievable. And the money that rollover is going to help with the wastewater. So a lot of that extra money we have is going towards that. And also, as Chair mentioned, that Mayor did settle with that hazardous pay. So that's going to be part of that too. Okay. Second thing is like for District 3, one of the mayor's and my top priority is getting Kawananakoa Gym fixed. Over 20 years, they've had problems with the paint that was used inside and outside of the building. For some reason, they found out now that the paint that they used was not, I guess, wasn't good for the climate area that they used, that building was in. So basically saltwater air, right? So that's why they had this problem where paint was always peeling off. So we're looking at doing a real major renovations there. So they found out, PNR found out that if Public Works requires the new codes to do the renovations, they're gonna have to put in a sprinkler system. So without the sprinkler system, they're looking at maybe about $5 to $6 million for everything, like repainting inside, outside, redoing the flooring, because what happened to the wax that they use to cover the flooring, it wasn't the proper waxing. So under the wax, there's like mold growing. I mean, like the whole floor is spots of black, the mold. So they're gonna remove that, take it, sand it down, and then they're gonna re-put new wax that's going to be, I guess, compatible for that area of the climate. Yeah. But then yeah, and so that's about 5 to 6. If they've got to put in a sprinkler system, they might come to like $7 to $8 million more for that project. Okay. White Tail Fire Station, as you folks know, they had to be removed. The firefighters had to be removed from that facility because of the roof was leaking and there was mold and mildew, affecting that station. So that's another top priority that we're going to be doing. But also what Public Works did this time is that there were like 4 stations island-wide that has the same structural building. So what they did is they grouped it with the 4 different stations as an to a consultant to design the roofing. So this way, one, it save costs on consulting work, because now it's just one, the roofing is all the same, so they can use that same plan for all the roofs. And then so one station is located at the Waikea Fire Station, which is like as you're going down the beach to Kiokaha on the right side. The second one is up in Kaumana. And one is in, I think was in, there's 2 on the west side that they're going to be looking at in redoing that. You guys know that Central Fire Station is going to be going through their renovations. And so right now they're going to be, and then once this renovation starts, then they're going to be relocated down on Kilauea, where the old YWCA office was. Right? On Kilauea Street, across the Mormon church by 7-Eleven. And the last thing is, as Chair had mentioned about affordable housing. So the past administration had gotten some state land across the Hilo Muni golf course where the Hi Fire Station is. So they acquired that property. So I met with housing, and what we're gonna look at and see if that's possible is have it where we're gonna subdivide it into 15,000 square foot lots. And then we'll lease it to applicants that qualify. And it wouldn't have to be within incomes, could be any type, any amount of income. And there would be like a 65-year lease. So it's kind of like the same concept as DHHL. And then what happens is that whoever applies, say, their income, or they can afford, like, say, a $200,000 home. As long as they're able to get the financing and they can move, like building a house within a year, they'll be awarded that lease, right? So you have different levels of incomes being able to afford building a home on that properties. But the problem is we're going to be able to only do 49 lots because with the county code, anything over 50 lots, then you have to provide a wastewater facility, or if there are sewer lines, then you can hook up and you can add more. So in that area, there's no sewer lines. So, and building a waste facility would be too much. So we're going right now limit to 49 homes or 49 lots. And also having like a walking area, walking park, open space area. So I'm hoping that we can move forward on that. And then as Chair mentioned about that 0.5% of infrastructure. So with that funding, it could help with that project. And I think that's about it for CIP projects on the east side. Anybody have any questions?
Fresh, I just have a comment. So one of the meetings that we went to early on that was held at Hilo Hawaiian, Kai Kahele brought up the fact that, OHA has money, to work with in conjunction with the county for like fixing Kwananakoa Gym. I don't know if that has been addressed or are you guys trying to work together on that?
Great. Okay. Yes. I didn't bring that up, but yes. So we have a partnership on that renovation. So Representative Todd is in the works of trying to get his funding, that CIP with 3.5 million. Chair Kahele is looking at matching that 3.5 million, and the county is looking at 3.5 million. So if all that can work together, we can like have the sprinkler system put in, or and one thing good. So I brought in at the time to do that site visit was with OHA, DHHL, Public Works, Parks and Rec, and Mayor was there. So Public Works is saying there's a possibility of having the sprinkler system waived. So that's all in the works right now. And so hopefully, yeah. So all the three partners, we can all, get that done.
Great. Thank you.
Anything else?
For the wastewater treatment center, what is the ETA on the project, like years wise? I know it's not a overnight thing.
Yeah, no. So right now, what I understand is in the process of getting, or it's being fixed or being replaced, right? Certain parts of that facility. I don't know what the timeline, but I'm hoping it's within like a year or a year and a half.
And that 300 million, that's per year or just the whole project itself?
First phase.
Phase.
Yeah, because I think the second phase is where it's the outfall, that pipe that goes towards Puhi Bay and goes out of Puhi Bay. That's second phase. So
Thank-
first phase is just basically within the facility.
Right. Thank you, Fresh and Chair Inaba. Is there any more questions from the audience on any of our representatives or guest speakers? Okay, hearing none. I think we're pulling up to 1:00 and we're right on time. So I wanted to, again, a sincere mahalo to Chair Inaba and Vice Chair Onishi for your wisdom, the highlights, the updates to all the different projects. You guys have so much work you've done and will be doing for the county. So mahalo on behalf of the Hawaii Island Chamber of Commerce, Government Affairs Committee, and all of us here on the call. I believe, Carla, this is being recorded, right? And it's going to be released later?
Yes, it is. If you permit us to, we will share it on our YouTube.
Hey, but can I say one more thing, David?
Sure.
Okay, so I would hope and or recommend that, as your members on the issues, and maybe we can send certain issues maybe to Carl and then you can pass it over. We need you guys' help in providing testimony at certain issues. Okay? Because we always, like usually get on the opposite sides, a lot of the testimony, and there's like certain issues, it's concerning the majority of our residents, right? And so when we get the negative like testimony, sometimes it can be emotional for council members, but we need that support. And so
Um,
if you guys can help us on that part.
Sure. And just for everybody's information, our Chamber of Commerce government team and Carla has been working with many different bills, Senate bills, House bills, and providing written testimony, uploading it to the website. It goes through a slight vetting system process in which the executive directors, our team, weighs in on all the different iterations. And so we have and will support to the best of our ability. I know if it's time sensitive like this, HB 818, you see it's sort of like an emergency bill. So if you can send us any information, even sample, written testimony, so we can just change a few things. We can definitely take a look at it, review it, and then vote to support, because this is part of economic development, and this is important for Banyan Drive and our whole that Waikea Peninsula redevelopment part that was in past previously with your brother at the state ledge, and even prior before him started to talk about and push for this economic zone, and Waikea Peninsula, which is Banyan Drive, was part of that. And so